Going live now.
All right, I'm gonna just
Okay.
ask John if you can see us.
It should take a few seconds.
Okay, all right, let's do this. So welcome everyone to our very first part-time Code Platoon graduation, part-time Alpha Platoon. First of all, I want to thank all the instructors, John, Anthony, Lexi, and of course, Chad, for their hard work and earnest effort as they taught our first ever evening program. I also want to thank our board, all of the volunteers who helped our students along the way, and a special shout out to Jim Lewis for all of his help with career prep. As some of you know, Code Platoon is a nonprofit coding bootcamp for the military community. We train veterans and military spouses to become professional software developers in a very rigorous program. And when we launched this program in 2016, class covered 16 weeks and students were expected to work 60 hours a day, 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, plus a little more. Since then, we have run 3 sessions a year at this type of pace. And our goal was always to make this type of immersive training available to the military community by creating a warm, supportive environment and offering generous scholarships. We realized, however, that there was a large segment of our population who wanted to pursue this type of training, but who did not have time or resources to put life aside for 4 months in the singular pursuit of this training. So we decided to create an evening and weekend program for those folks. Let's be honest, this program was a long program. 2 evenings a week and a full day on Saturday for 38 weeks. That was almost all of 2020 when you think about it. You faced a lot of challenges. It was our first attempt at an evening and weekend program, so you had to bear with us as we worked through the kinks of this type of program. Many of you had other responsibilities like work or kids that you had to juggle while you tried to put in 20 to 40 hours or more a week in this program. Oh, and COVID, of course, that made things easy. So we're incredibly proud of you for gutting this out and for making it to the finish line, for having brought your whole selves to this effort. Congratulations and welcome to the alumni community of Code Platoon.
Thank you very much, Rod. Yeah, so my name is Chad. I was actually in the U.S. Army, and I'm one of the instructors here. I myself graduated from Code Platoon a couple years ago, and then I got a job working as a DevOps engineer at Motorola. And since then, I've been working in digital humanities at the University of Chicago. And my colleague and co-instructor is Anthony Elfring. He can introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Anthony, and I'm also an Army veteran. I was a cryptologic Arabic linguist in the Army, and I graduated from Code Platoon as well in 2018. And since then, for the past 2 years, I've been a software engineer at CTC, which is a proprietary trading firm in Chicago. I work mostly in Java and Python, which is interesting because I was in one of the cohorts that was still doing Ruby back in the day. So I've covered a lot of languages over the past few years, or a couple of years. And it's been really a pleasure to work with these students this crazy year.
Yeah, I just want to, I know Rod hit on it, and so did Anthony just now, but I just want to emphasize how much work these guys put in and how difficult it is. This is 9 months. People have full-time jobs, family obligations, everything. So it's like having, essentially 2 jobs, which is, it's very impressive just for that reason. And they completed this program, and I think, I'm very impressed with everything that they were able to accomplish. So I'm very proud as an instructor. So I really appreciate all the effort and dedication and persistence that you guys showed. Really made, I think, my and Anthony's lives a lot easier than it could have been otherwise. Okay, so enough about Code Platoon in general and instructors. We're all here to celebrate the accomplishments of the actual people who did all the work. And so I'm gonna go ahead, if we can see the CoVisor team. So this is the name of the app that they made for their final project, and they're gonna talk about that. So we have Ika, Brandon, Tom, Jared, Veronica, and Alex. And I'm gonna hand it over to them, and they can introduce themselves a little more detail, and then talk about the app that they developed. All right, Brandon, thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Aika. I'm a military spouse. My husband used to be an active duty member at Air Force. Now he is a reserve member at Air National Guard. We're located in Chicago. I'm working as a software engineer currently for the past 3 years. I'm working at a company called Maximus. We work for Medicaid, Medicare enrollment eligibility programs. I work as a QA lead, so I do a lot of API, UI, database testing. I'm equally interested in transitioning to front-end and back-end engineering roles. My email is listed here as well. As a part of a CoVisor team, I was responsible to work on authentication, backend structure with Django, developing our models for a custom API.
Hi everybody, my name is Alex Wirt. I'm also a military spouse. My husband serves in the Coast Guard and we're located in the Norfolk, Virginia area. On this project, I primarily worked on the pipeline as well as authentication and some CSS.
Hey, my name is Brandon Branch. I'm a Marine Corps veteran and we live in Jacksonville, Florida. I'm currently a senior systems and data analyst at Florida Blue Insurance Company. And I'm hoping to take what I learned here at Code Platoon and transition into a backend developer role.
Yeah, hey, my name is Jared Simon. I was in the United States Air Force for 10 years before I got out. Currently, I am a support technician for the city that I live in. I would like to pursue a career in, I believe, front-end development. That's kind of where I don't know, it's kind of like what I like to do. But for this program, I focused on the user comments and the user profile page.
Hi, my name is Tom Georgakopoulos. I served in the Army as an intelligence analyst. I'm located in the Chicago area. For this project, I worked on the third-party APIs and the data that comes with that. I previously worked as a database developer and now doing business automation. I'm looking to transition to a career in software and web development.
Hi, I'm Veronica VR. I served 8 years in the Marine Corps. I am currently a software engineer at a company called Train Heroic, which builds software designed to connect coaches and athletes. I just started working here about 3 months ago, and I could not have got this job without Code Platoon, so thank you. In this project, my primary focus was creating and managing the CI/CD pipelines and implementing styling.
All right, so moving forward, we're going to introduce you all to our app, CoVisor. We were inspired by the state of the world today to make a website where users can go and check out the numbers about COVID-19. So you're looking at a screenshot here of our homepage, and it's primarily intended for people who are traveling. So our app allows you to select a state and you can see the data for that particular state and also see any local regulations regarding wearing masks or any other sort of regulations enforced by the CDC and the state government. For the technologies we used on the back end, we used Django, which is based on Python, and we deployed to Heroku. On the front end, we used React, which is based on Node.js, and we deployed that live on GitHub pages. We also used Bootstrap to help with our styling, and throughout the whole project, we used Git. So moving forward, we're going to introduce you to Bob. Bob is a traveling salesman, and he's going to use our app. So without further ado, I'll pass it off to Brandon, and he'll show you the demo.
Thank you, Alex. So Bob is an older traveling salesman, so he's very interested if he's traveling to a hotspot area, needs to know if the virus is trending upward or downward, and wants insight from locals. So here he arrives on the homepage. Bob already has a user account, so he's going to log in. If he didn't, there's an opportunity to sign up for one here as well. So immediately he has these 4 cards that present various data points, the number of positive cases, deaths, hospitalized, and total tests administered on a national level. This is pulled from a third-party API, and it's refreshed every day at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. On each card too, there's a number in green that's showing the increase of that metric from the previous day. Also on the front page, we have a React library we are using to pull in a Twitter timeline for the CDC. So here Bob can see if there's any recent tweets about COVID-19, changes in guidelines or suggestions. This top one actually is unrelated to COVID. It is about salmonella outbreaks from backyard chickens. Bob's going to ignore that and scroll down and look for some COVID-19 posts, and he sees a couple here. On the right, we're also using a React library called AIM charts. This is pulling in data from the Census Bureau as well as a COVID tracker API. It's a heat map, so it's going to show Bob if there's hotspot areas in the country. So the lighter the red, pink color means there's more cases there per capita. If he scrolls over state, Missouri here, he can see several data points about it and the per capita rates. Lastly, the bottom, we're using the same React library, but a line chart visualization. So Bob can see nationally if the virus is trending upward or downward. Bob is actually interested in traveling to North Carolina. He's got a few sales appointments there. So he's going to actually click on that state and travel to our state detail page. So we're using the similar cards here, so he can actually see the same data points, but on the state level to see if there's upward trends or not. We're using the same Twitter React library, but we're programmatically pulling in each state's health department timeline. And we actually have a link also that we pulled in to visit external site. So actually you can click on that and go to the state's department website. Lastly, at the bottom here, we have our comments section, which we created a custom API for. So here Bob is seeing that North Carolina is actually out of rapid test, and he's seeing that they're actually enforcing a curfew. So that's good, Bob to be able to know this information going in. Bob's been in North Carolina now for a couple of days, and he's noticed that every single grocery store he has visited is out of hand sanitizer. So he's actually going to add his own comment. So you have to actually be logged in for comments. If Bob was not, he wouldn't be able to add or edit comments. He would only be able to view them. So Bob adds that comment, and it's actually going to re-render that section and put the newest comment at the top. Bob can go to his profile view on the My Account page and actually see all the posts he has made. This is the only one he's made. And here he has the opportunity to edit or delete his comment. So he has realized it's not all grocery stores that are out of hand sanitizer, but some. So he's going to go ahead and edit that comment. And he's going to go back to the North Carolina view. And he can actually see his updated comment there. Out of hand sanitizer at some grocery stores. That about wraps it up for our demo. So I'm going to turn it over to Veronica now to talk about our CI/CD pipelines.
So we created our CI/CD pipelines early in the development process. We did this because we wanted to reduce manual errors and ensure we had a means to get quick feedback as we iterated. To create our pipelines, we used GitHub Actions, which is a tool built into GitHub. This allowed us to create branch-based workflows. The way this worked is we had two mechanisms. So we had pull requests which we used. I'm sorry. So The way it worked is, as soon as work was completed on a feature, all code, then you would create a pull request on GitHub. At that point, the pull request workflow would kick off. It would build your project, make sure there were no errors. So once you had a successful build and approval from a teammate, you could then merge to master. Once things were in master, the master branch workflow would kick off. It would also build your project, but in addition, it would deploy the Django API to Heroku and the React app to GitHub Pages. Once it's deployed, it was publicly accessible to the entire team to view changes, to make decisions on what we wanted to do next, or see things that were not working. So then that process would just repeat again. This also was live, so family members could see it and give us feedback, as well as our instructors. Now I'm going to hand it off to Tom, who's going to talk about third-party APIs and the data we used.
Hi, this is Tom again. I worked on the third-party APIs and the data for CoVisor. I pulled the data from two main APIs, the COVID tracking project, which didn't even require an API key. The other one I pulled from United States Census Bureau. That gave the populations for each of the states. With the COVID tracking project, I made 8 fetch calls to different sets of data that gave me JSON objects to display them in various spots on the site. The API data gave me loads of information. I was able to get current and historical data for the country and for each state, which Veronica wonderfully displayed. I also had state metadata that provided the health department Twitter handles, which Brandon used to create the Twitter feeds and the links to the health department websites located on the individual state pages. I had 1 fetch call to the Census Bureau for the populations for each state. I wrote all the code on this on the front end in React using fetch calls to the APIs and React hooks. So for the map, Jared created the map on the site, and I needed to display it with data in order to accurately display the cases across all 50 states. I did that by creating an algorithm to combine the populations of each state from the census with the case counts from the COVID tracking project, and then calculated the cases per capita and reconstructed the JSON objects in the right format for the map. If I didn't do it by per capita basis, then the heat map would be kind of skewed to the more populous states like California, Texas, and Florida. And it wouldn't be a very effective tool, really. I also made a tooltip to give you some of the more localized data. As for the line charts on the site, I cut the time period down to the last 60 days because you don't really need more information than that. Is the current information for the trip that you're going to be making soon, and that's plenty of time to make a trend. Some of the most challenging parts of this was time. There really wasn't much of it, so I didn't get to everything that I wanted to add to the site. One of the other things is trying to figure out a way to display the data in a way to specifically assist travelers. And I'm going to turn it over to Aika for authentication.
Thank you, Tom. Aika here. For authentication, we decided to use JSON Web Tokens, JOT for short, which comes with the Django REST framework that we're using in our backend. We are using this token to protect our custom-made API, Comments API, as Brandon showed earlier in demo. For Bob to create, delete, edit comments, he needs to be logged in to our application, and where every API request passes this JOT token as a header. JOT encoding, decoding involves the use of a secret key. We have defined it as a constant in our settings.py on our backend structure. The Django REST framework JOT package provides us with default view for decoding this JOT token. For signing up and logging up, we're using the built-in user model, which can be easily customized, which we have done as well. When Bob successfully logs into our application, this JOT token is saved in our local storage, and now we're able to create, delete, and edit these comments. We just have to pass this token as a header. Our JOT token is good for 3 hours. We have defined it also in the settings py, but it's customizable as well. After logout happens, JOT token is deleted from local storage, and Bob can no longer create or delete comments. He can only view existing comments. And I'm going to pass it to Jared. He's going to talk about CRUD functionality.
Yeah, thanks, Ika. So there are 4 features that we wanted to make sure that we implemented, and those were the create, read, update, and write data within our application. That CRUD capability is showcased within the state page, and it's also in the user's profile. Starting within the state page, a user is granted the opportunity to leave a comment as long as that user has an account and is also signed into that account. When a user clicks on the add comment button, we have a modal that displays the form. Within this form, there are 2 fields, one being the username, which is a read-only field. And this prevents anybody from making a comment as somebody else. The other field is a text area field where that user can put in his comment. When the submit button is clicked, a function is triggered that wraps the user's comment along with the state's name as the title and the user's username into a JSON file. And it stores that comment into a PostSQL database or Postgres database within our Django backend. This is all made possible with the Post API call. With the comment for that state now stored in the backend database, anyone that visits that state will be able to see that user's comment. The comments themselves, they are retrieved through the use of a GET API. When the GET API is called, it grabs every state comment and runs each one through a conditional function that compares the comment's title against the current state that is displaying. And it will only render the comments that match. If a user notices they have a typo, or if they just want to delete their comment altogether, they can do so within the user's profile. Once in the user's profile, that user has 2 buttons to select from, which are labeled edit and delete. When either one of these buttons are selected, a function goes ahead and grabs that ID of that particular comment. If the edit button was clicked, then that launches the same modal form that was used in the state page, and it goes ahead and puts in that comment that was selected into that text area. Once the submit button is clicked on, it's going to go ahead and update that comment with a patch API call instead of a post API call, since this is an update and it's not a brand new comment. Lastly, if a user had clicked the delete button, the comment is deleted out of the Postgres database through the use of a delete API call. That is the basics of the comment and user profile CRUD capabilities. I will now pass it back over to Brandon, who will talk about the after action report.
Thanks, Jared. So when we wrapped up this project, we got together as a team and we just talked about some of the problems and challenges we faced going through this project. And then we also jotted down some of the features and enhancements we were not able to get to, but we would have liked to have included if we had more time. So starting with the challenges, the first major one was the authentication with the JSON Web Token. We quickly learned that authentication is just touches every part of the application. So we needed to get that figured out to get the comments, the user profile page. We had to make requests from the front end to the back end to get the JSON Web Token. So there was front end work, back end work, database work. It was a lot going on just with that one feature. I actually remember one time where we spent the majority of the day, 5 of us on a Zoom call trying to figure out the configuration and just kept running into roadblocks. One of the other challenges we ran into was when we changed the data model, which we did a couple times during the project. We would have to basically drop our current database and rebuild it and get it up and running again. And so we'd be down for a couple hours while we did that. And then there was just the reality of all of us working on this project with full-time jobs, having families. Jared actually had a newborn during this time period, and then just the craziness of the holidays. There was also just the challenges of working in different time zones. So we had people on the East Coast and people on the West Coast. and then everyone was remote. So we couldn't just walk over to each other or meet up as easily. For features, we would have liked to have gotten to the ability to drill down to the city level because some restrictions are imposed at the city level versus the state level. We would have liked to have the ability to upvote, downvote, or reply to comments on that comments pane. We talked about the ability to sign up and log in with an existing Gmail or Facebook account. This next one, the ability to upload a profile or avatar picture. That was another instance where we realized just a small little feature or change like that, just how many areas of the application it touches. So we would have liked to display the profile picture next to a person's comments on that pane, and then also when they went to their profile page. And we actually had to change the data model, the database, change some settings in the back end, create an API to expose those pictures to the front end. And we got all that work done, but we still needed a way for users to upload those pictures. So we would have had to done a form in React to grant a user the ability to upload the picture. So that was just an instance of a small little feature that would make the application look more professional, but it's very time consuming adding all those configuration details. It would have been nice to have an ability for a user to follow a state page and receive, email or text notifications when new comments and announcements were added, and then adding some sort of map visualization showing where the closest testing centers are. We want to close out as a team by giving shout outs to everyone. First to Rod for creating this program and allowing us to enroll in it and go through it. Next, big time shout out to our family and friends. As everyone's mentioned, this has been a long journey, 9-month long journey. We've given up pretty much every Saturday over the last year. And so just big shout out to our family and friends for, being flexible and supportive on this long journey. Our awesome instructors, Chad and Anthony, they gave up every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday with us, and then some, and would help us get unstuck when we got stuck. And we're just big encouragers too when we were feeling unmotivated or defeated with a certain concept. I want to thank our mentors and TAs. Each one of us was assigned a mentor we could reach out to and get career advice for, or do some mock interviews with. We also had a whole group of TAs that pitched in during the week. So when we were coding in the evenings, we could reach out to them for help. I want to give shout out to Jim Lewis and Rich Luby. They gave us a lot of lectures on the job search, interview prep, and just general career advice. And actually, 3 of us used some of that advice and interviewed and received job offers while in the program. And we all commented that some of the questions we went over in preparation, we were all asked those questions verbatim in the interview. So it was spot on advice. Well, I'm going to turn it back over to Anthony, who's going to field question and answers for us, or questions for us.
I will not be answering those questions for you, Brandon.
Yes.
Really great job, though, Team Co-Advisor. Like Brandon said, we want to take a few minutes now to open it up for discussion for a Q&A. If you're on YouTube, just feel free to drop questions in the chat there. We already have a question from Michael, so I'll start with that, and if you guys can field that. So Mike says, awesome job. I see you have multiple things to balance in this app, from CI/CD pipelines to a number of APIs. And then the question is, what was the strategy to keep track of all of this and keep the team in harmony? So how did you guys manage the project and manage the team effectively?
We used Trello board, try to use Trello board. So we would rotate and every one of us would kind of run the meeting, and we would move cards from what we want to develop, whereas currently everyone is working on what's done, what's getting tested. And after it passes our pipeline, everything gets approved and merged, everything is working, we would move that particular card to done status. Yeah.
I would also add Slack. Slack is a great tool. We had a group that we created with just us in it, and it didn't matter what time. It seemed like someone was throwing in a Slack question in there, or hey, I just made this PR request. Can someone review it? So Slack was a real good tool for it as well.
Awesome. I guess, are there any any more questions? I'm just gonna like awkwardly pause and then, okay, awesome. What was the hardest part of developing this app? What was the most challenging thing you guys faced?
I can jump in here. I think it was authentication. There were little stuff that were took a little bit of work, but I felt like authentication at one point, all of us had to jump in and try to get parts of it rolling, which was cool because, you know, at one point we would get it through the pipeline. Okay, now it's over here. And then we would just link up at different parts. And until we got that stable, it just seemed like that took us a couple of days, if you spread that out over like 2 weeks to get that right.
Cool. There's kind of a similarly themed question, but with some follow-up. So in addition to challenges you faced on this project, what were some of the unexpected challenges you faced during the course as well? Were there any lessons or any concepts that were particularly challenging?
I can say once you hit Django and React, that's pretty challenging. There's a lot you need to learn. Django especially. I've seen React before, so I kind of knew what I was coming into, but Django I had never seen. So I spent a lot of time on that because we use that for our back end. We also used it for our front end for a little bit, just going through some practice, but I would say it was Django and React for me.
Yeah, definitely. For me also Django, and just I was surprised how hard it is sometimes to figure out why it's not working, because especially for a backend, because Django involves like there's a lot of magic going on kind of underneath, and just how much amount of time you have to spend digging out through documentation, like looking for right resources and just trying out multiple times to make it work.
I think for me, React was the hardest part. And part of that comes with being in the part-time program. You know, we all have lives. And I know I was traveling for about the first week when we introduced React. So I think that put me back a little bit on that when we were learning that whole framework.
As for me, I was, once we hit Django and React, it was a lot of work, because I kind of missed a little bit of the instruction because I was kind of renovating a house at the time. So I was trying to balance the family and renovating and this project, and this requires a lot of work. So I had to speed up my learning in a few weeks after I was finishing and do my individual projects and then get on the group project, and while I'm still learning everything. So it was just a lot of work in a short period of time. And React is very expansive, and it was a full stack application. So we had to apply what we learned in the beginning of the class all the way at the end, and pretty much everything all together. And it was just, with the time commitments, it was just a lot of work with everything.
There's a question about JSON web tokens. I know you guys mentioned a couple times that one of the challenges, like technical challenges in this project, was authentication. Could you say a little bit about why you chose to use JSON web tokens versus like OAuth or some other authentication and authorization scheme?
JWT token is considered as a golden standard right now for authentication, as we covered it, and something we learned, and we decided to use that so everyone would be like know what's happening there. as Jared explained, it was challenging because it touches every application. You want to change something, you should be able to make it work with a user model, with authentication, make sure that token is working, and make sure that it doesn't expire, and then creating relationship between our custom-made model and this built-in model for authentication to make it like work together. It was
cool. There's also a follow-up question about, I think someone mentioned that the data model had to be kind of recreated a number of times. Can you say a little bit about why that was necessary? What did that process look like when you were kind of rebuilding the data model for your project?
I can speak to that. So in this project, we chose a lot of things, that were new, like JOT tokens. So with the pipelines, that was also something that was very new that we touched on in the course, but we didn't go deep into. So just really having to go that far where it's like, hey, you need to deploy this to a remote server, but also make sure that the database is getting built. So there were some places where we made mistakes where if we had created like the first model and then had a another thing on top of that, they would have built properly, but we made mistakes. So we realized, okay, we're just gonna have to rebuild it. Well, how do you rebuild it? And then that was like a search of, let's figure out how do you rebuild that remote database. So a lot of it was just kind of learning, making mistakes. Okay, we adjust. In the future, we probably could have made, now we know, oh, hey, we just have to manage our database changes a little better, but it was a great learning experience.
Awesome. And then also with the amount of APIs you use, so you use obviously a number of APIs, both to collect data and to represent that data visually. What was the difficulty traversing the documentation? I think this is getting at, every API can be sort of built differently, and being able to consume multiple APIs effectively requires a lot of like custom fit solutions. So can you talk a little bit about that process?
Yeah, as for me, yeah, I pulled in a couple of the APIs, and I had to calculate a lot of data, kind of combine the cases with the census data and pull it from here and pull it from there. It was just a lot of algorithms, I guess, putting it all together, and considering that almost every spot on the site pulls from a different API. It was just kind of putting it all together, and one on the state page, one on the home page, one on the main files. It was everywhere. I mean, at least for me, I wanted to put more data up, and I didn't get to that either. So it was just I wanted more and more data, and I got a lot of big dreams, I guess. It was I quickly realized that after a while, I'm not going to be able to get to everything. So, but yeah, it was quite challenging.
Cool. Well, if there are no more questions, then I think, or I'll ask, I guess, everyone that's here on this presentation to join me in congratulating all of our graduates. So without further ado, we'll just go one by one. Congratulations, Aika Begalarova. You guys can like clap, clap at home. Congratulations, Brandon Branch. Congratulations, Tom Georgakopoulos. Congratulations, Jared Simon. Congratulations, Veronica Villar. And congratulations, Alex Wirt. Congratulations to the very first inaugural part-time Alpha Platoon.
Yeah.
Awesome job, guys. Really, really good.
We made it official now.
Longest 9 months.
Yeah, I think at this time,